Alright, today we're in a new shop. We're working on a 2012 Ford Focus, and we will be doing an install of a remote start. And the interesting thing about this is all of the connections are behind the glove box. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to have to pull this panel off, this panel here, and also the glove box. We'll pull it out. Alright, so now that we have full access to the VCM, we are going to start connecting the pre-wired harness, or the pre-wired FLCAN. So I'm just going to try to find a decent place where I think this will mount, and then I'll just run my wires accordingly. So I think based on the wiring that we need, so we'll need in here, we'll need in this one, and the one below it, right here. And this will be our main power, so we'll be grabbing that up here. I'll wait to hook up those wires after we get all the Flashlogic module wires in. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start over here on this one. Just go ahead and show you how to get these connectors out. I don't know if you can see very well, but there's a tab here that pushes in. That'll be on both sides. So if you squeeze those and then pull this lever, and pull that out, just like that. So what I'm going to do to make my life easier, and so I can identify the pin connection, I'm going to take this cover off. And in order to do that, it's easier if you take this whole piece off. this lever. So there's a wire tie here we need to cut, and then a couple clips, and this will slide off. Alright, that was easy. Driver's door pin will be number 45, and the color should be green purple. This is pin number 41, 42, 43. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that should be this wire right here. It's green with a purple stripe. What I'm doing now is I just wanted to show you how I find the wire, how to take these clips apart. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this one. This is the only one that needs to be cut. It's for the driver's door pin. So we'll cut it, I'll solder it, and I'll show you what that looks like after I get a few of these connected. I'll come back and show you. Alright, so what we have here is the door pin wiring done here. So the wire's been cut, the white black goes toward the BCM, white red goes toward the vehicle. I'm going to go ahead and finish these up, get the cover back on, and then I'll move on to the next connector and the next wires. So the next harness we're going to get into, or the next plug, will be this one, and in this we will find the can low and the can high and both parking light wires. So again, I'm going to pull this plug out just like the last one. And then I'll disassemble it, make the connections, and I'll come back and show you where they are. Alright, so I have identified the can wires. They are these two here, purple and orange and gray and orange. Now one thing I wanted to tell you is we don't want to grab these down here, otherwise we might not be able to get the cover back on. So I'm going to follow them up and grab them up here so that our connection can be outside of the cover. I just wanted to throw that in there. Alright, just real quickly, here are my connections for the parking light wires. You got yellow and blue and brown and yellow. One is left, one is right. Got the diodes, so you got your main 12 volts here, two diodes to separate the left and the right, and then we got the can high and low. I'm going to go ahead and put this connector back together and get it plugged in and move on to the next connector. Alright, this will be the next connector that we're going to unhook. You can see it here. And in this one we're going to have our ignition, accessory, key sense, door lock, and RX-TX. So I'm going to go ahead and unhook this, uncover it, find my wires, make my connections, and I'll come back. Alright, I've made all my connections in this connector. We've got ignition, accessory, key sense, door lock, and RX and TX, all in this connector here. So I'm going to button all this up, get it plugged in, and then all we have left is the main constant, the starter wire, and our ground wires, and then we'll be ready to run the antenna and test everything, get it programmed, and finish up. Alright, so here is the main starter wire. You can see where I found it in this junction plug here. It's noted in the instructions from Flashlogic. And then here is the main power wire. Alright, so I had to wrap up this install rather quickly. I ran into some problems during the programming of the module. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little refresher on what module I used and which firmware. So that's where we're at on this page right here. So this was a 2012 Ford Focus, standard key, automatic, the FLCAN. And one thing I'd like to note right away is it says keys required for programming, one key. That was not the case with this particular install. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the installation guide, and I'm going to show you right here. This little chart will tell you which vehicle you have and the install type. So I'm going to come down here to Ford Focus, standard key, automatic. This is a 2012. This will cover a 2012 and 2013. So this tells me that the install type is a type 3. So I'll scroll down to find that information in this manual. One more thing I'd like to point out is this feature here, the 3-time lock remote start. What that's supposed to be is if you push the lock button 3 times on your OEM remote, it should start. That did not work with this particular vehicle either. So here, just for the purpose of showing you how this works, that said, this particular vehicle is a type 3. And what that will tell you when you scroll down to the type 3 wiring information, I covered this in the pre-wire video that I made for this car. But here is page 1 of 2 of the wiring diagram. So this just tells you where the wires from both the remote start and the Flashlogic module go in the car and where you can find them. I just want to show you this for reference. Alright, so now I'm going to scroll down to the programming section of this manual. Alright, this is the initial programming right here. So you'll plug the module in, and then you're going to tell the module which mode you're using as far as whether it's data mode or the standard hardwire mode. And in this video I used the data mode, and all that means is that we're transmitting information between the remote start and the alarm, or the remote start and the module via data cable. So anyway, once it's hooked up, it turns on, it has one green flash, and so then we'll move on to step 2, which is press and hold the programming button until the LED turns on solid, and I had no problems with that part. And so we're going to scroll down. This is for the push to start, so we don't need that information. Alright, so here's where things got a little strange for me. Once everything was installed, I had the data mode selected on the Flashlogic module, closed the doors, made sure the hatch was closed, put the key into the ignition, turned the key on, the light turned red, but when we get to step 4, it did not flash green. It was flashing red, and it was 3 times. It was 1, 2, 3, pause, 1, 2, 3, pause, and it was red. And so if we go down to the troubleshooting or the diagnostics, flashing red during programming, it says right here, missing or wrong information from firmware or vehicle. So I took the module out. I did this, well, basically this process here. I took the module out, took it back to the computer, reflashed it with the same firmware, took it back to the car, attempted to do the same programming sequence between 1 and 4, and got the same results. So I was running out of time on this particular install. Customer needed the car back, so I put everything back together and I got it to the customer, and they did have a second key that was made. It was not an original key. The key I had originally was the original key. So I left everything intact from finishing the install, and then I was able to take their second key, and then basically I'm at this point right here again. So I put the key in, turned it on, and it flashed green rapidly. So then I turned the key off, took the key out, took the module out, took it back to the computer to do the second part of the clone process. Got it all put back into the car, and then here we are again at step 13. So I used that key, the second key, to program it. Well, I ended up putting the key in, turned the key on, LED lit up red, but then it didn't do this part. It didn't turn solid green. It started flashing again, just like it wasn't communicating. So then I took the very first key I originally used, put it in, turned it on, and then it programmed just like this, just like number 16. So I took the key out, turned the key off, took the key out, and it worked just fine. And I just wanted to put this in the video so that anybody that's going through this with this particular vehicle, if you run across this, you'll want to try this, and hopefully that'll be what takes care of your situation. Just want to say thanks for watching this video, and if you have any comments or questions, definitely feel free to leave them below. And if there's anything that you think I could do better to be more informative, leave that as well. Thank you for watching.